Let me tell you something most people never admit. Sometimes loving someone means keeping the truth from them. My name is Natalie. I'm 28 now, and 3 years ago, I made what I thought was the smartest decision of my life. I buried a secret so deep that, for a while, even I started to believe it never happened. Everyone around me sees this polished version of me, this so-called reformed party girl who met the perfect man, settled down, and built a peaceful little life. But the truth behind that picture-perfect story is far more complicated. I met Aaron about 4 years ago at work. Back then, he seemed like everything I thought I wanted: steady, dependable, safe. He worked in IT, owned a cozy house in the suburbs, had a rescue dog, and actually wanted commitment. After years of dealing with careless, unreliable men, that stability felt like a relief. He wasn't thrilling, but he was trustworthy. The type who'd never cheat because he'd be too busy paying bills and reminding you to schedule a dentist appointment. Husband material, right? We got engaged after just 8 months. I wasn't head over heels. It was more like I was tired of heartbreak. He felt like a solid bet, a man who would show up, make life easier instead of harder. But then, 3 months before our wedding, everything started to unravel. There was this guy, Lucas, from another branch of our company. We'd been casually flirting over email for months, harmless jokes, harmless banter. At least, that's what I told myself. Then came a work conference. One night, after the team dinner, we ended up at the hotel bar, drinking, talking, laughing too easily. It felt electric. Somewhere between one drink and the next, I convinced myself it was innocent. Aaron trusted me completely. He'd never questioned something like this. But one drink became too many, and before I realized it, I was waking up in Lucas's hotel bed the next morning. I didn't feel guilt, not right away. Just anger at myself for being careless. The guilt came later, when it hit me that I could lose everything I'd built with Aaron if the truth ever surfaced. While Lucas was still asleep, I made a choice that changed everything. I decided it never happened. I dressed quietly, left his room, went back to mine, showered, and caught my flight home. I acted like it had been just another work trip. After that, I quit drinking entirely. Told Aaron it was for my health. I even started therapy not because of guilt, but because I needed to make sure I'd never make that kind of mistake again. Ironically, my therapist made it easier to justify what I'd done. She said that if it was truly a one-time lapse, and I'd taken steps to prevent it, confessing would only hurt him for no reason. I clung to that. Why destroy his peace of mind over something meaningless? So I buried it. I threw myself into being the perfect fiancé, then the perfect wife. I cooked his favorite meals, kept our home spotless, remembered every detail about his day. For 3 years, I built a beautiful life over that secret, convinced I'd handled everything flawlessly. Aaron never suspected a thing. Why would he? I wasn't a serial cheater. I made one mistake, under pressure, and spent every day afterward trying to do better. People love to say honesty is always right, but they never talk about situations like mine, where telling the truth would only cause pain. In time, I even believed my own lie. I told myself that the woman who cheated wasn't really me, just a drunk, reckless version who didn't matter. I avoided Lucas completely after that night. He lived in another city, and our work rarely overlapped. Pretending he didn't exist was easy, until last week. That's when my carefully constructed world began to fall apart. Aaron left for work as usual, and I was home in my pajamas when I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, probably spam, but something told me to answer. The voice was soft, shaky. She introduced herself as Claudia, Lucas's wife. My stomach twisted. She asked if I was Natalie, if I knew Lucas from work. I kept calm, acted surprised, said we barely knew each other. Then came the blow. She said Lucas had been cheating for years, with women from conferences and work trips, and she'd finally had enough. She'd given him an ultimatum: confess everything or lose everything. And Lucas had chosen to confess. Claudia started listing dates and places, like she had a full report. When she mentioned the conference from 3 years ago, the same hotel, the same dress I wore to dinner, I felt the blood drain from my body. Lucas had kept records, emails, notes, even photos. Claudia wasn't calling to start a fight. She said she was warning me that Lucas would be calling Aaron that evening to come clean. She said she was done living alone with the truth, while everyone else kept pretending. I begged her not to. I told her it was ancient history, that no one would gain anything by digging it up. She didn't care. Everyone deserves to know who they're really married to, she said before hanging up. I spent the whole afternoon spiraling. Should I tell Aaron first? Should I beg Lucas to stay silent? Mostly, I was angry. Angry that my life was about to fall apart because of someone else's choices. Angry that Claudia thought she had the right to wreck my marriage. That night, Aaron came home, as usual. We had dinner, watched TV, went to bed. I thought maybe Lucas backed out. But the next morning, during breakfast, Aaron's phone rang. I watched the color drain from his face as he listened. When he hung up, he looked at me like I was a stranger. He asked if there was anything I wanted to tell him about a work trip 3 years ago. My chest tightened. I tried to play dumb, but it was useless. He knew. I broke down. Less from guilt, more from sheer frustration that everything I'd worked so hard to protect was crumbling. I confessed. I told him it was a drunken, meaningless mistake. That I'd spent every single day since then trying to be a better wife. That I never even thought about doing something like that again. But Aaron didn't want apologies or explanations. He wanted the details, dates, times, everything. Then came the same question over and over. Why didn't you tell me before we got married? I tried to make him understand that I was protecting him. That confessing would have done nothing but cause him pain. I reminded him how much I'd changed, how completely I devoted myself to him since then. But none of it mattered. He just kept saying, I don't know who you are anymore. That night, he packed a bag and said he was staying at his cousin's place until he figured things out. I told him he was overreacting, that plenty of couples survive mistakes like this, but he wouldn't listen. For the next few days, he barely replied to my messages. When he finally came home, he wasn't the same man. Cold, distant, suspicious. He spent hours digging through everything, our emails, old photos, even work calendars. He found the harmless messages between me and Lucas from before that trip. Just casual jokes, nothing incriminating. But to him, it was proof of something bigger. He even called Claudia behind my back. She painted me like I was just another name on Lucas's list, like I'd been part of some ongoing affair. Aaron became obsessed. He started therapy, but came home talking about betrayal, trauma, and emotional manipulation. His therapist told him that the lying was worse than the cheating, that our entire marriage was built on a lie. That infuriated me. I wasn't manipulating him. I was protecting him. There's a difference. But no one seemed to care about that difference. Aaron ignored everything good I'd done, every sacrifice, every act of devotion, because of one mistake I could barely remember. Weeks passed. He slept in the guest room, questioned me constantly, treated me like a criminal in my own home. Finally, I'd had enough. I gave him an ultimatum, either forgive me and try to rebuild our marriage, or divorce me and walk away. His answer stunned me. He said he'd only consider staying if I quit my job. He wanted me to leave the company entirely, to erase any connection to Lucas. Even though I hadn't seen or spoken to Lucas in years, even though I'd built my whole career there, that's where we are now, trapped in this silent standoff. Me, refusing to throw away everything I've worked for. Him, treating me like I'm a ticking time bomb, ready to go off any second. And the worst part? Deep down, I still believe I was a good wife. I truly believe I was protecting him, not deceiving him. But in Aaron's eyes, none of that matters anymore. Not a single thing.